They thought she was just another quiet new girl, easy to ignore, easier to control. But Clara Machado wasn't here to fit in. What started as petty bullying turned into a storm that would rock the very foundation of her high school. When 6 boys tried to silence her, they didn't know they were up against a black belt, a brave heart, and a mind sharpened by injustice. This is the story of how one girl's courage exposed a system built on silence, and how an entire school found its voice because she chose to fight back. Clara Machado had only just stepped into her new school when the weight of unfamiliar stares began to press down on her. She came from a world where you didn't just survive, you learned to fight. 8 years of mixed martial arts had shaped her into more than just a teenage girl. But from the outside, Clara looked quiet, unassuming, easy to overlook, and that's exactly what the bullies did. To them, she was just the new black girl, alone, out of place, a perfect target. The jokes started first, small, cowardly jabs tossed in hushed voices. Then came the threats, the stares, the daily harassment that slowly started to chip away at any sense of normal. Until one afternoon, they crossed a line. It happened in front of everyone. Laughter echoed down the hallway like a cruel chorus. Some students turned away. Others whispered that maybe Clara deserved it, but Clara didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. They thought she was weak. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Let's rewind. That morning, Clara had been up long before the alarm, 5:30 sharp. The ceiling above her bed still felt unfamiliar, like the rest of the house they'd moved into only 3 days ago, but downstairs, the basement was already set up the way it had always been. In one corner, a line of sandbags her mother installed the night they moved in. For 40 minutes, Clara punched, ducked, kicked. Sweat rolled down her temples, but her mind was focused. Jab, cross, hook. It was muscle memory. The movements came effortlessly, but today they carried something different. Not anger, not revenge, just calm, intent. "Clara, coffee," her mother called from upstairs. Patricia Machado stood near the stove, still in her hospital uniform from the night shift. "You good today, baby?" "Normal," Clara replied. It wasn't normal. Nothing about this new school was normal. Bondurant's High was massive and white. A sea of students, almost none of whom looked like Clara. She could count the other black students on one hand. Conversations paused as she walked by, eyes following her like she didn't belong. But Clara walked the way Mr. Silva taught her. Head high, shoulders relaxed, never look weak, but never start a war. Biology passed without incident, history was tolerable, but lunchtime, that was when the real test began. The cafeteria looked like a map of social hierarchy. Popular kids held the center like royalty. Athletes were loud in the back corner, theater kids by the window. Clara grabbed a sandwich and scanned the tables. That's when she heard it. Well, look who decided to join us," came a mocking voice. Rodrigo Fonte stood tall, over 6 feet, athletic, built like someone who never lost a fight and never had to. His Letterman jacket hung perfectly over broad shoulders. Behind him, 2 sidekicks, Leo and Tiago, smirked, waiting for the show. Rodrigo stepped into Clara's path. "I'm talking to you," he said, his tone dripping with entitlement. "We need to talk." Clara didn't blink. "About what?" "About how things work here." He grinned, all teeth and no warmth. "New kids usually pay a welcome fee. Think of it as insurance. Keeps bad things from happening." Clara didn't move. "Insurance against what?" "Accidents," Rodrigo shrugged. "Books go missing, lockers get jammed, people get pushed." Iago added with a sneer, "Especially people who don't belong here." Clara placed her tray down gently. Her expression was unreadable. Then she turned to Rodrigo and said, cool and clear, "I'm not paying." For a moment, Rodrigo's smile faltered. "Just for a second." "That's not how this works, girl," he hissed. "Everybody pays. You either pay early or pay the hard way." Clara stepped around him and sat at the nearest empty table. She opened her sandwich like nothing had happened, but her eyes were locked on him from the side, watching every move. Rodrigo stood frozen, stunned by her refusal. A murmur swept through the room. "This isn't over," he snapped. "No one disrespects me, no one." But Clara had already taken her first bite. She chewed slowly, deliberately. Across the cafeteria, a boy named Lucas leaned toward his friend and whispered, "She has no idea what she just started." But Clara knew. She didn't want to start a fight. But some battles find you. And Clara Machado was ready. Bullying was never the question, not here. The real question was when Rodrigo would strike back. And how far he'd go. It didn't take long to find out. By second period, Clara approached her locker with the key in hand. She tried turning it. Nothing. She checked the combination again. Still stuck. Locks can be tricky when someone shoves gum into the mechanism. Leo whispered from behind her, his voice soaked in smugness. "Welcome to Bandeirante." Clara stared at the gummed-up lock without a word. It was petty, childish, but it wasn't random. "Just the beginning," Leo added, stepping back to enjoy the view. Third period passed without incident, but when Clara reached for her literature notebook, gone. 3 days of notes, vanished. She rummaged through her backpack again, twice before giving up. That's when she heard it. Laughter near the stairwell. Tiago was holding her notebook high above his head, reading her writing out loud in a mocking tone to a group of freshmen. "Look at this beautiful handwriting," he cooed sarcastically. "Someone must have used it to find the last cookie in the pack." Clara approached, steady and composed. "That's mine." Tiago smirked, lifting it higher. "Maybe if you say please, I'll think about it." Clara didn't beg. She didn't reach. She simply pulled out her phone and snapped a photo of him holding it. What are you doing?" Tiago asked, suddenly unsure. "Evidence," she said calmly, slipping her phone into her pocket, "in case I need to file a police report." His cheeks turned red. Trying to save face, he tossed the notebook to the ground and stomped on it before walking away. Pages scattered like fallen leaves. As Clara crouched to gather them, a pair of worn sneakers appeared in front of her. She looked up. The girl was saying it, the boy who had whispered a warning at lunch. "You need to listen," he said quietly, glancing around. "Rodrigo's not just some high school bully. His dad owns half the businesses in this city, including the agency where my mom works, and his uncle runs the local police department." Clara stood, brushing off her pages. "So, you're here to scare me?" "I'm here to save you," Lucas said, his voice firm. "Last year, there was another transfer student, Gustavo Almeida. Rodrigo didn't like that Gustavo was talking to the girl he liked. 2 weeks later, Gustavo had a broken nose and 3 fractured ribs. Official story? Hell down the stairs. And you believed that?" "I believe Gustavo left this school 2 weeks later and never looked back." Lucas leaned in closer. "You may know how to fight, but Rodrigo doesn't fight fair, and he never fights alone. Whatever you're planning, don't." Before Clara could answer, he slipped back into the stream of students changing classes. In the afternoon, it only got worse. At lunch, someone accidentally spilled chocolate milk all over her backpack. In chemistry lab, her safety goggles vanished. She was forced to work without them, ruining the results of her assignment. By 6th period, a pattern had clearly emerged. Rodrigo's crew rotated shifts harassing her, always with an excuse, always just under the line of technically innocent. There were witnesses to every moment, but none to the intent. But it was 7th period when things escalated past the point of silence. Clara sat in Portuguese class, trying to focus on a discussion of the sun for everyone, when Rodrigo raised his hand. "Professor Lucia," he said, flashing a wide grin, "I think we should hear from our new classmate about this book. I bet she has some interesting insights." It wasn't a question. It was a trap. Professor Lucia, unsure of the undertone, smiled hesitantly and nodded toward Clara. Clara could see it coming a mile away. But she didn't flinch. She stood and spoke clearly, offering a thoughtful reflection on racial injustice and moral courage in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, which had been referenced earlier. Her words were precise, calm, powerful. When she finished, silence hung in the room. Then, slow, sarcastic applause. "Well said," Rodrigo muttered. "It's wonderful when people like you can articulate things so well." The insult was buried in praise, but it hit like a slap. Clara held his gaze. "Thank you," she said, her voice unwavering. "Thank you for your attention." Around her, the classroom buzzed with tension. Professor Lucia's face had gone pale, frozen between wanting to defend and not knowing how. Clara sat back down, her hands folded, heart steady. Rodrigo leaned back in his chair, smile gone. Because something had changed. This wasn't the reaction he expected. Clara Machado wasn't just surviving. She was standing tall, and not alone for long. Clara had always believed that her words mattered, that reason and articulation could stand against ignorance. So when Rodrigo raised his eyebrows at her in class and questioned her ability to contribute to academic conversations, she responded with grace, her smile thin but unwavering. "My good communication ability," she said calmly, refusing to flinch. But Rodrigo wasn't done. "Refreshing," he smirked. "Sometimes people from certain backgrounds struggle in these discussions, don't you think?" The classroom froze. The weight of silence pressed down like a curtain. A few students shifted in their seats, visibly uncomfortable. Clara met his gaze, voice low and firm, steel wrapped in silk. "People from all walks of life have the ability to surprise you." The bell rang. Clara didn't rush. She gathered her books with slow dignity, lifted her chin and walked out. But something inside her shifted that day. A boundary had been crossed. Rodrigo's game had begun, but so had something else, something deeper. Later in the hallway she heard him laughing with his entourage, loud, careless, as if mocking her was a kind of sport. The next morning, Clara opened her locker to find a banana duct-taped to the inside of the door with a note scrawled across it. "Welcome to the jungle." Rodrigo's handwriting was unmistakable. She stared at it, expressionless. Around her, students gathered, watching like spectators at a silent play. Some looked embarrassed, others giggled. Clara calmly crumpled the note, dropped it in the trash, and peeled the tape from the metal. She kept the tape not as a keepsake, but as evidence. Rodrigo appeared behind her, his voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Didn't like your welcome gift?" he jeered. "You seem like someone who belongs with the urban wildlife." Clara shut the locker with quiet finality. "Creative," she said, her tone cool and cutting. "But maybe next time work on your handwriting. Makes it easier to trace the source." Rodrigo's jaw tightened. And then, louder, "Performative. Maybe you need a lesson in respect." Clara didn't back down. "Maybe you need a lesson in basic decency." A few gasps escaped from nearby students. Some pulled out their phones instinctively, sensing a moment was unfolding. And this was only the beginning. By the time the school day ended, Clara had become the main topic in every hallway. Some students avoided eye contact, others stared openly, whispering behind cupped hands. The damage was done. The fake video Rodrigo edited, clipped, distorted, taken wildly out of context, was already making the rounds on social media. Clara walked in silence, her jaw tight, her backpack heavier than ever. Outside her last class, Lucas was waiting. His voice was low. "The recording. It's fake. I was in Portuguese. I heard what you said." Clara didn't slow down. "It doesn't matter anymore. The lie's already viral. I can fight it legally, or I can fight the source directly." Lucas gently grabbed her arm. "Don't. That's what Rodrigo wants. He's setting a trap, hoping you'll strike back so he can play the victim. If you react, he wins." Clara paused. Around them, students passed by in small groups, some whispering, some pointing. Rodrigo had been building this moment, brick by brick, a campaign of isolation, humiliation, and provocation, every step designed to corner her into a mistake. But what if the mistake was letting him keep going? She gently pulled her arm free. Lucas stepped back, anxiety etched in his face. "Clara, don't do this," he pleaded. "He's not worth it." But some things are worth it. It's her dignity, her right to walk through those school doors without fear, her right to exist. And sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to remind them the target can fight back. Out in the parking lot, Rodrigo and his crew were laughing, loud and cocky. They were celebrating already, smug with their supposed victory, convinced they'd broken her spirit. They were wrong. Clara dropped her backpack near the school entrance and began walking toward them. The laughter stopped. Rodrigo stood up straighter. Leo and Tiago flanked him, grinning like hyenas. "Well, well," Rodrigo called out. "Look who finally came to play." Clara stopped a few feet away. Her voice was calm, sharp. "Enough of your games, Rodrigo. The fake videos, the bullying. It ends now." Rodrigo smirked, sensing an audience gathering. "It ends when I say so. You don't get to walk into my school and act like you belong." Clara stepped closer. "This is a public school, funded by taxpayers, including my mother." That hit. His face flushed red. "You think you're tough?" he barked. "You're outnumbered, outmatched." Clara's posture shifted, slightly, deliberately. Her weight balanced evenly. Her eyes locked on his. "I tried to ignore you," she said. "I tried to walk away. You wouldn't let me. So now, we do this my way." Tiago cracked his knuckles. Leo took a step forward. "You sure about this?" Rodrigo sneered. 3-on-1 doesn't end well for you." Clara didn't flinch. "That's your mistake. You think people who stay quiet don't know how to fight." Rodrigo lunged first, but Clara was already moving. She sidestepped, caught his wrist, and twisted with practiced precision. His own momentum sent him stumbling forward. Before he could recover, her elbow struck clean into his solar plexus, folding him to the ground. Leo roared, charging recklessly. Clara swept his legs from under him, and he hit the asphalt hard. Tiago hesitated, then bolted. Rodrigo scrambled up, red-faced and furious. "You think you're tough?" She didn't answer. Her body moved like water, flowing, anticipating, striking with grace born of discipline. Years of training had taught her not just how to fight, but how to end a fight. Rodrigo swung wildly, but she dodged, countered, controlled. Every move calculated, every hit clean. Leo stumbled back, nursing a swollen eye. Tiago returned only to catch Clara's defensive strike to the ribs before retreating again. By the time it was over, Rodrigo lay face down on the pavement, Clara's knee pinning him by the shoulder blades. They had crossed half the parking lot. His nose was bleeding. Leo groaned nearby. Tiago clutched his ribs. "Is it over?" Clara asked, breathing steadily. "Get off me!" Rodrigo snarled. She pressed just enough to make her point. "Is it over?" "Fine, it's over. Will you leave me alone? No more games, no more videos, no more threats." Rodrigo was silent. "Say it." "Yes, I understand." Clara stood, brushing off her palms, watching as Rodrigo sat up in silence, humiliated. A stunned crowd of students surrounded them. No one said a word. Clara looked around. "Well said," she murmured to herself. Then she turned and calmly walked back toward the school. Inside, Principal Helena was wrapping up paperwork when her secretary knocked. "Ma'am, there's been an incident in the parking lot. Some students say it looked like a brawl." Helena sighed, putting on her glasses. "Is it serious?" "No ambulances yet, but you'll probably want to see for yourself." When she arrived outside, Rodrigo sat slumped on the curb, blood running from his nose. Leo and Tiago were holding each other up. A small group of students filmed the aftermath, phones buzzing with notifications. Principal Helena stepped into the center of the scene. "What happened here?" she asked, her voice sharp. Rodrigo didn't answer. He couldn't meet her eyes. "Just a joke," he muttered. Helena crossed her arms. "Rodrigo Fontes, you're bleeding. This was no joke." "I fell," Rodrigo mumbled quickly. Wasn't paying attention, just tripped over my own feet. Principal Helena raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but before she could press the issue, Rodrigo and his crew were already hobbling away. He leaned heavily on Leo, too proud to admit the truth, too bruised to hide it. The next morning, the halls buzzed louder than ever. Rumors spun out of control. Some said Clara had brought a weapon. Others swore she took down 5 boys by herself. The truth, still powerful, but in high school, rumors always travel faster than facts. By second period, a nervous sophomore named Bruna approached Clara at her locker, flanked by her timid friend Camilla. Clara? Bruna whispered, glancing around nervously. Can we talk to you about something? Clara studied them. Bruna's voice trembled with anxiety, but there was something steady behind it. Camilla, however, looked like she wanted to disappear. We heard about what happened yesterday, Bruno said, with Rodrigo, and we were wondering if maybe you could help with something else. Camilla added, barely louder than a whisper, there are some older guys, from liberal school. They've been waiting at our bus stop after school. Bruno nodded. Yesterday, they took Camilla's backpack, dumped everything on the ground, called us disgusting names, said they'd be back today. Clara closed her locker, turning to face them fully. What exactly are you asking me to do? Bruna hesitated. Would you walk with us? Just be there? Maybe if they see you, they'll back off. Clara looked at the fear in their eyes. She thought of Rodrigo's bloody nose, the fake video, and every quiet moment that built to that explosion. What time does your bus arrive? 3:15, Bruna replied, eyes wide with hope. That afternoon, Clara joined the girls at the stop on IP Street. The sun cast long shadows across the sidewalk, and a crisp breeze rustled the leaves above. The tension around the two girls was nearly visible. They usually roll up around 3:20, Bruna whispered, checking her phone. The bus won't be here until 3:45. Camilla added nervously. Yesterday, they surrounded us, said we looked lonely, that we needed company. Her voice cracked. When I tried to leave, one of them grabbed my arm. They made us pick everything up while they watched. They said if we told anyone, we'd regret it. How many? Clara asked. 3, Brunner said. Mateus is the leader, bleached hair. Bruno's the one with tattoos. Raphael's the one who grabbed Camilla. At exactly 3:22, a dented Camaro turned onto the street, music blaring from the speakers. The car slowed as it neared the bus stop. Mateus spotted Clara instantly, his eyes narrowed. Who's the new girl? He asked. No one, Bruna replied quickly, just someone waiting for the bus. Bruno flexed, flashing the tattoo snaking down his arms. She doesn't look like she belongs here. Raphael stepped toward Camila again. She instinctively moved closer to Clara. Brought back up, huh? He smirked. Not very friendly of you. Clara took one step forward. I'm here to have a little chat about how you're going to leave these girls alone, starting today. Mateus raised an eyebrow. That's so? It is, Clara said, her voice steady. The boys burst out laughing. Bruno doubled over dramatically. So the cavalry is one little girl with attitude. I'm not thinking anything, Clara replied calmly. I'm just telling you your harassment ends now. Raphael moved in closer to Camila. And if it doesn't? Clara met his gaze. Then you'll find out some people aren't as easy as you think. Mateus moved to flank her from the left, Bruno from the right. Raphael hovered behind Camilla again, saying, You know what? I like you. Got fire. Why don't you ditch these babies and come hang out with some real men? I'm not interested in guys who terrorize teenage girls, Clara said coldly. Girls, Raphael scoffed. These aren't girls. They're old enough to learn some respect. He reached for Camilla's shoulder. Clara moved like lightning. Her left hand blocked Raphael's wrist and twisted it away from Camilla's body. Her right struck clean into his forearm. Raphael howled and stumbled back. Bruno lunged forward. Clara pivoted. "This is your last warning," she said, planting her feet firmly. Matthias charged from the side. Bruno followed. Clara ducked, swept Matthias's legs, and used her elbow to strike Bruno clean in the gut. Both collapsed on the pavement. Still holding his arm, Raphael pulled out his phone. "You're crazy. I'm calling the police." Clara didn't even look at him. "Go ahead. Tell them you tried to intimidate 2 younger girls and got dropped by a high schooler." Runa raised her phone. "I recorded everything, including the part where you tried to grab Camila." Matteo sat up, blood running from his cracked lip. He looked at Clara, not with rage this time, but something closer to respect. "You don't know who you're messing with." "I know exactly who I'm looking at," Clara said. 3 cowards who pick on girls because they can't handle someone who fights back." Bruno limped to the car, his tough guy persona gone. "This doesn't happen again," Clara warned. "If I see any of you near these girls, our next talk won't be so polite." Raphael opened his mouth, but Matthias grabbed his arm. "Let's go." The Camaro screeched away in defeat. Runa lowered her phone, hands still trembling. "That was incredible." Clara turned to the girls. "You two okay?" Camila nodded, tears of relief welling in her eyes. "Thank you. I can't believe you did that." "They were counting on you being scared," Clara said. "Bullies always do." The bus rounded the corner and hissed to a stop. As they boarded, Bruna was already uploading the video to social media. "People need to see this," she said. "Everyone needs to know someone's finally standing up to these guys." Clara took a seat, unaware the video would go viral before dinner. By 7 p.m., it had been shared over 300 times. By 9 p.m., it passed 1,000. Comments poured in. This girl stood up to bullies harassing students at a bus stop. Finally, someone said enough. She should be teaching self-defense at school. Across the city, Rodrigo Fontes sat in his room, an ice pack pressed to his still swollen nose, watching the video for the 5th time. His phone buzzed non-stop. Messages, mentions, DMs. One of the links included footage from the school parking lot. The comments were merciless. Leo called. Rodrigo answered. "You see this?" Leo growled. "Everyone's seen this. My dad asked why I look like I got hit by a car. She's making us look like fools." Rodrigo didn't answer. "She's got a nickname now," Leo added. "Some kind of vigilante superhero. We're the joke." Rodrigo clenched his jaw, his voice barely a whisper. "She's not a superhero. She's just lucky, twice." But deep down he knew this wasn't luck. This was power. Real power. And Clara Machado had just started using it. Across town, in a cluttered garage filled with rusted tools and regret, Matthias was pacing. "We looked weak," Bruno shouted, tossing a wrench onto the workbench. Raphael sat nearby, cradling his sore wrist. "3 of us," Matthias muttered. "Taken down by one girl, because she knew how to fight and we didn't see it coming." He didn't say it with anger. He said it with shame. Raphael opened the video again. "She wasn't even tired after, and now? People are calling us cowards, bullies." "Because that's what we were," Bruno admitted. "Let's face it, fear kept people in line, but now? That fear's fading. If word gets out that a high school girl shut us down," Matthias said grimly, "our reputation's done. No one will respect us again." Back at Bandeirantes High, the viral video wasn't just a spectacle, it had become a revolution. For years, some students had suffered in silence, but suddenly they found their voices. Principal Helena arrived Monday morning to an inbox overflowing with messages. Some parents were furious, demanding Clara's expulsion for violence. Others praised her, thanking her for protecting their children. Most were asking the same thing. Hasn't the school done anything about the bullying my child has been reporting? Her secretary, Selma, stepped in with a stack of incident reports. 12 students submitted complaints over the weekends, she said. All of them mentioned the video. All of them say they can't stay silent anymore. Helena flipped through the reports. Each page weighed heavier than the last. Some incidents had taken place off campus, others had been reported but apparently ignored. and Clara Machado had become the face of the movement. That morning, Clara barely made it to class before she was swarmed by students, some thanking her, others asking if she really did what the video showed. "You're like a real-life action hero," said Andre, a sophomore who quietly ran a private blog documenting bullying across the school. "I'm no hero," Clara replied. "I just got tired of being pushed around." But even as the students rallied behind her, the administration scrambled for damage control. Principal Helena called an emergency meeting with the school board. The conversation turned heated fast. "What happened was off campus," insisted Mr. Mendez, the board chair. "Can we distance ourselves from it legally?" Helena opened the viral video on her laptop. "You can try," she said, "but the top comments are all asking why our school allows bullying to thrive. We can't hide from this." Ms. Costa, a more progressive advisor, spoke up. "Maybe, just maybe, we should start listening to the students instead of protecting our reputation." The room fell quiet. Tensions rose. Some argued Clara should be suspended, others wanted to bring her in to lead peer conflict resolution. Meanwhile, a father's petition was gaining traction online, demanding better safety protocols and self-defense training in public schools. By lunchtime, over 50 students had joined Bruna's new support group. Their mission was simple: protect one another and advocate for real change. As Clara passed by the track field, she noticed it, the subtle but undeniable shift. Students who used to avoid her now nodded respectfully. Teachers who once looked the other way were suddenly more alert, more present. But then she caught the glare. Rodrigo and his friends were watching her from across the quad. Not with fear, with hatred. And she knew the war wasn't over. She had won battles, but now she was a symbol, and symbols have targets. Tuesday morning, Clara was called to the principal's office before first period. Principal Helena sat behind her desk, bags under her eyes, shoulders tense from too many sleepless nights. "Please sit down," she said quietly. Clara sat, posture straight, calm. "We need to talk about what happened near the bus stop," Helena began. "You intervened in a situation involving harassment, but you also engaged in physical violence off school grounds." She opened a folder. "I've received 17 calls from parents in the last 24 hours. Some want you expelled. Others think you should be given a medal." She sighed. "The school board is meeting tonight to decide how to handle this." Clara kept her voice even. "What exactly is there to resolve? I protected 2 girls from being assaulted." "You fought 3 boys," Helena countered, "and it was posted online." "I didn't post anything," Clara said, "and those boys have been terrorizing students for months." Helena rubbed her temples. "Clara, I understand, I do, but taking justice into your own hands isn't the solution. We have procedures." "Your procedures didn't stop Rodrigo from harassing me," Clara said. "Your protocols didn't protect Bruna and Camila from being cornered and threatened." There was a long silence. Clara didn't break it. Helena finally looked up from the file. "I don't know what's right anymore," she admitted. "But I know this: something is changing, and you started it." That same Friday night, Rodrigo Fontes sat in his car outside a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. His nose had healed, his pride hadn't. The viral video of his humiliation had racked up over 10,000 views. The comments still made his stomach twist. At 8:30 p.m., a beat-up Camaro rolled into the lot. Mateos climbed out, followed by Bruno and Rafael. Their faces were grim, exhausted from the weight of embarrassment. "Finally," Rodrigo muttered as they slid into the booth across from him. "No, Leo?" Mateus asked, glancing around nervously. "We had to be sure no one followed us," Rodrigo replied, his voice sharp. "We can't risk another video." Tiago shifted in his seat. "This is a bad idea. If someone finds out—" "No one will," Rodrigo cut in, "unless one of you decides to talk." Bruno leaned in. "Look, we've all got the same problem. She made us look weak, and now everyone thinks they can challenge us." "It's worse," Leo added as he arrived. "She's teaching kids how to fight back." Rodrigo pulled out his phone and played a clip of Clara's latest self-defense class. A wide shot of over 60 students training together, confident. In a month it'll be 100, he said. So what's the plan? Mateus asked. Rodrigo's smile was slow, cold, calculated. We can't touch her, too many cameras, too many witnesses, but we can take her down legally. Silence fell over the table. A formal assault complaint, Rodrigo continued. My father knows people, judges, prosecutors. We file a report, say she attacked without provocation. Make her look dangerous, reckless, violent. Bruno frowned. But there's video proof. Videos can be interpreted, Rodrigo said quietly, especially when the right lawyer explains it to the right judge. What about the footage at the bus stop? Rafael asked. It's everywhere. 3 high school boys fighting 1 girl, Rodrigo said. We spin it, say she was armed, that we were defending ourselves. Leo nodded slowly. And once she's tied up in the system, her little fight club falls apart. Fear comes back. We get control again. Mateus hesitated. And if people don't believe us? They will, Rodrigo said, because our families are powerful, hers isn't. And in this town, that's all that matters. For the next hour they plotted, coordinating stories, filing synchronized complaints, rebranding Clara Machado as the problem, and themselves as victims. Back at school, Clara finished that evening's training session, unaware of the trap being built beneath her feet. Good work today, she told her students. Now remember, practice your awareness this weekend. Trust your instincts. As the kids gathered their bags, chattering excitedly, Mr. Carlos, her teacher and mentor, stepped forward. You've built something special here, he said quietly. Clara smiled. These kids were always strong. They just needed to remember it. Be careful, he warned. When systems start to change, the ones who benefited from the old one don't just step aside. They push back. Clara nodded. She had noticed it too, the shift. Rodrigo and his friends watching her from the corners, whispers falling silent when she entered a room. Something was coming. She could feel it. But nothing prepared her for what came next. On Monday morning, Dr. Patricia Machado was reviewing patient charts at the hospital when her phone rang from an unknown number. Dr. Machado, said a calm voice. This is Sergeant Costa from the Bandeirantes Police Department. We need you and your daughter to come to the station. Patricia's heart dropped. Is Clara hurt? No, ma'am, the officer replied, but we've received multiple assault complaints filed against her. She's not under arrest, but she needs to come in for questioning. Assault? Patricia whispered, her hand trembling. That's not possible. There are 6 complainants. I recommend you contact an attorney. By the time Dr. Machado arrived at Bandeirantes High, the police were already waiting in the principal's office. Principal Helena looked stunned. 6 boys from 2 schools have filed formal reports, she said, unable to hide the disbelief in her voice. They claim Clara attacked them, unprovoked. This is outrageous, Patricia said, rising to her feet. My daughter was defending herself and protecting other students. They tell a different story, said Sergeant Costa, flipping through his notes. They're requesting a restraining order. When Clara entered the room, it was the first time her composure wavered since moving to Bandeirantes. One look at her mother's anxious eyes and the officer's stern expression told her everything. Am I being arrested? She asked softly. Not yet, Sergeant Costa said, but you'll need to come with us for questioning. Your mother can accompany you. News of Clara's police escort spread through school within minutes. Bruna burst into tears when she heard. It's my fault, she sobbed to Anne. If I hadn't posted that video. No, Anna said firmly, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. This isn't your fault. It's theirs. Rodrigo, Mateos, all of them. They can't handle the fact that someone finally stood up to them. Within an hour of Clara's detainment, the school erupted. Andre launched a group chat titled Justice for Clara, and in under 30 minutes, over 200 students had joined. Across the school's feeds, the original bus stop video resurfaced, this time with detailed captions explaining what really happened. In the cafeteria, Lucas Pereira stood atop a table leading a spontaneous protest. "They're trying to silence the one person who stood up to protect us," he declared. "She gave us the courage to fight back, and now it's our turn." At the police station, Clara sat beside her mother and Dr. Mariana, the lawyer who had agreed to represent her pro bono after seeing the evidence of systemic harassment. "Start from the beginning," Mariana said gently. "Tell it all, clearly." So Clara did. Rodrigo's threats, the growing harassment, the edited video, the confrontation in the parking lot and the incident at the bus stop. Her mother sat silently, her anger growing with each detail Clara had never shared. "When didn't you tell me?" Patricia asked, her voice breaking. "Because I thought I could handle it," Clara said. "And because I knew if I reported it they'd just make it worse." Mariana took notes, nodding. "Do you have any evidence?" "Some. I took photos of what they did to my locker. There might be school security footage, too." Back at school, Mr. Carlos wasn't staying silent either. "This is wrong," he said, confronting Principal Helena in her office. "You've seen the impact she's made. She gave those kids something the school never did: protection, self-worth." "My hands are tied," Helena replied. 6 families filed formal complaints. The school board's in crisis mode, more worried about protocol than justice. "Don't ask me to sit by and let her be railroaded," Carlos said. "I've seen Rodrigo and his gang harass students for years. I filed reports. I proposed interventions. Nothing changed. But the moment one girl fights back, suddenly it's a crisis?" Before Helena could respond, Selma, the secretary, rushed in. "Ma'am, there are 50 students in the main hall, with signs, and parents too. They're demanding we drop the charges." "What kind of signs?" "Justice for Clara. Stop protecting bullies. She protected us." Helena closed her eyes. "Call the school board president. Tell him we have a situation." At the police station, Clara sat with her hands folded tightly, her mother beside her. "Patricia, I'm proud of you," Patricia whispered. "No matter what happens." Clara nodded, holding her mother's hand. The war for her freedom had begun, but this time she wasn't fighting alone. 2 weeks later, on the eve of the trial, Clara sat at the kitchen table with Dr. Mariana, reviewing her testimony. "Let's stick to the truth," the lawyer said firmly. "Don't let them bait you. That's what they want. You just tell your story." "And if the judge doesn't believe me?" Clara asked, her voice soft. "Then we appeal, but I think you'll be surprised by how many people stand with you." Just then, Patricia entered the kitchen holding a box of printed emails. "These are just from today," she said. "Letters from parents, students, even teachers at other schools." Mariana smiled. "The public defender's office has been flooded with support. The system may not always be just, but public opinion is on your side." Across town, Rodrigo Fontes sat stiffly in his father's study, being grilled by the family's attorney, Dr. Nogueira. The man wore a dark suit, a colder expression, and a watch that cost more than most people's rent. "If there are any inconsistencies in your testimony tomorrow," he said flatly, "the case will fall apart, and if we learn that you've fabricated anything, assault will be the least of your problems." Rodrigo shifted uncomfortably. "There won't be inconsistencies." "There better not be. Filing a false report is a crime, and don't forget those viral videos won't be easy to explain." On the leather sofa, Leo and Tiago exchanged anxious glances. "What if the videos show what really happened?" Tiago asked. "Videos can be reinterpreted," Nogueira replied coolly. "That's why we're framing it as a pattern of violent behavior, 6 incidents, enough to question self-defense." Meanwhile, in a dark garage, Mateus, Rafael, and Bruno held their own emergency meeting. "I think we made a mistake," Rafael admitted. "What if she does have more evidence?" "Like what?" Mateus snapped, but the edge in his voice was gone. "Security footage, witnesses. I heard today that 20 students are testifying in her favor." Bruno nodded gravely. "My dad says if we lose, we could be charged with perjury. He's talking about hiring a defense lawyer, for me." Back at Bandeirantes, those 20 students were gathered in the library for a final prep session led by Lucas and Bruna. "Just speak the truth," Lucas said. "Don't exaggerate, don't guess. If you don't remember, say so. If they try to twist your words, stay calm," Aina added. "Stick to your story." "Because our stories are real," Bruna said. Andre nodded. "Rodrigo bullied me for 3 years. Tomorrow I get to say that, on the record." From the back of the room, Mr. Carlos stepped forward. "I want you to know how proud I am of all of you. Testifying takes the same courage Clara showed in that parking lot." "Are you testifying too?" Anna asked. "Yes," Carlos said, "and so is Principal Helena, though she doesn't know it yet." That sparked a wave of hope. Helena would testify in Clara's favor. She would admit that reports were ignored, that warnings went unheard. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. 8 months ago, she was just a quiet girl from Sao Paulo, focused on her training. Now she was the center of a legal battle that had split her new town down the middle. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. It was a message from Bruna. "No matter what happens tomorrow, you've already changed everything. Thank you." More messages followed, from classmates, parents, even strangers who had seen the viral clips and found courage in Clara's strength. She fell asleep at last, knowing that in just a few hours she would walk into that courthouse not as a victim, but as a symbol of something far bigger. The morning of the trial, the Bandeirantes County Courthouse buzzed with electricity. Supporters packed every bench. Parents, students, and teachers formed a line that wrapped around the building. At precisely 9 a.m., Judge Regina Castro, a stern woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes, entered the courtroom. Her presence almost sealed the court. She looked out over the standing room L crowd. "This court is now in session. The state vs. Clara Machado charged second-degree assault." Rodrigo's lawyer rose, his designer suit catching the light. "Your Honor," he began confidently, "this case is about gratuitous violence, committed by a troubled young girl against innocent boys." But as he spoke, Clara lifted her eyes across the courtroom and saw a sea of people. People she had stood up for, people who now stood for her. "We will demonstrate that Clara Machado systematically targeted and assaulted students, causing emotional trauma and physical harm," Rodrigo's lawyer declared confidently, gesturing toward Rodrigo, who sat slouched, head bowed, playing the role of the victim. "These boys were merely going about their lives," the attorney said, "until they became targets of an unstable girl abusing martial arts training to intimidate her peers." Then Dr. Mariana stood. Her voice was strong and unwavering. "What we have here, Your Honor, is not gratuitous violence, but a young woman defending herself and others from systematic bullying. The evidence will show that every action my client took was in direct response to threats, harassment, and physical intimidation." The prosecutor called Rodrigo to the stand. With carefully rehearsed hesitation, he claimed Clara was aggressive from the start, that he offered to help her feel welcome, that he tried to calm her in the parking lot. "She came after me and my friends," he said with theatrical sorrow. "We tried to walk away, but she followed us." Dr. Mariana rose for cross-examination. "Mr. Fontes, is it true you asked my client for protection money on her first day at school?" Rodrigo hesitated. "I don't know what you're talking about. Is it also untrue that you manipulated a classroom recording to publicly humiliate her?" "I've never edited anything," Rodrigo lied. "Let's review that," Mariana said, turning toward the judge. Silence fell as the courtroom played 2 clips back to back, the original unedited classroom recording, followed by Rodrigo's altered version. The difference was obvious, the lie undeniable. The color drained from Rodrigo's face. The courtroom murmured. "Then," Mariana said, "was your idea of a joke that publicly shamed my client?" Rodrigo said nothing. More witnesses followed. Leo, Tiago, Matthew, each repeated the fabricated story, but under pressure their timeline began to fall apart. Security footage showed them harassing students the same day they claimed to be victims. When Matthew took the stand, the unraveling was swift. "Sue, you want this court to believe," Mariana asked, that 3 boys were bullied by 1 girl at a bus stop. She was aggressive. Or was she protecting 2 younger girls from your threats? Mariana played Brunner's original video. It clearly showed Clara stepping in only after Matthew and his friends cornered the girls. Then came the defense witnesses. Lucas Pereira testified about Rodrigo's 3-year bullying reign. One by one, students shared their stories, painting a grim, consistent picture of fear, silence, and Clara's quiet courage. Bruna's voice cracked as she recalled the bus stop incident. Raphael grabbed Camila's arm. "We were terrified. Clara saved us." Anna spoke next. "Rodrigo made school a nightmare for anyone he didn't like. Clara gave us hope. She didn't start the fight, she ended it." Even Principal Helena took the stand. Her voice was heavy with guilt as she confirmed years of ignored complaints. "We failed to protect our students," she admitted. "Clara did what we didn't." Then Clara took the stand. She spoke calmly, with quiet strength. "I never wanted to fight anyone. I just wanted to go to school safely. When that wasn't possible, I stood up for myself and for others." In closing arguments, Dr. Mariana turned to Judge Castro with compassion and fire. "If we punish this girl for protecting herself and others," she said, "what message are we sending? That bullying works? That silence is survival? Or that standing up makes you a criminal?" The courtroom held its breath. 30 minutes later, Judge Regina Castro returned. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, she said, "This court finds the defendant, Clara Machado, not guilty of all charges." The room erupted in applause. Clara burst into tears, hugging her mother and lawyer tightly. The fear that had followed her for weeks vanished in a heartbeat. Behind her, Rodrigo sat frozen. His father's proud expression collapsed into cold fury. "You told me she didn't stand a chance," he growled at their lawyer. "There's nothing I can do," Nogueira replied, quietly packing his briefcase. "Not after those recordings." Leo and Tiago stood pale and silent as their parents processed the verdict. "This is perjury," Leo's mother whispered. "This is a crime." "You're going to apologize," she said sharply, "to every family you've hurt." The Freedom Boys were unraveling. Matthew's carefully crafted image shattered as his father walked out without a word. Bruno and Raphael followed, reputations in ruins. "This is insane," Raphael muttered. "We could go to jail." "Should have thought about that before lying," Bruno snapped. Outside the courthouse, a celebration was beginning. Students cried and hugged Clara. "You did it!" Bruno wept. "You actually beat them!" "We did," Clara said softly, looking around at the faces who had stood beside her. "We all did." Her mother looked on, tears of pride in her eyes. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "Not just for winning, but for how you did it." Dr. Mariana packed her notes with a smile. "In 20 years of practice, I've rarely seen a case where justice felt this complete." Over the following weeks, everything changed. Rodrigo never returned to Bandeirantes High. His family quietly sold their house and enrolled him in a military academy 3 states away. Leo and Tiago pleaded guilty to filing a false report and were sentenced to community service and mandatory counseling. One lost a scholarship, the other was kicked off the football team. The remaining boys faced similar consequences: suspensions, legal investigations, and reputations beyond repair. But the most lasting change came in the form of Clara's legacy. Her self-defense club was officially adopted as a school-wide program, the Student Safety and Empowerment Initiative. 3 months after the trial, over 100 students met in the school gym each week. New sessions were added on weekends. What began as survival became empowerment. "This was bigger than we imagined," Mr. Carlos told Clara one afternoon as she guided first years through drills. Clara smiled. They were always ready. They just needed permission to believe it. The program grew beyond martial arts, now including conflict resolution, intervention strategies, and restorative justice circles. Anna, once Clara's student, now served as a peer mentor. The best part, she told a group of nervous seventh graders, is realizing you don't have to be afraid anymore. The school itself changed. Hallway dynamics shifted, conversations opened up, students walked taller. Andre, once bullied in silence, now led a peer group supporting students with anxiety and trauma. Clara didn't just teach us how to fight, he said. She taught us that we deserve to feel safe, and we have the power to make that real. Beyond Bandirante, schools across the region began requesting the program. Anti-bullying organizations took notice. Clara's name appeared in newsletters, podcasts, even national articles. One quiet Friday afternoon, Clara sat in the same cafeteria where Rodrigo had first asked her for protection money. Only now the tables were full of mixed-grade students, laughing together, no longer divided by fear. Bruna handed her a letter. "This just came for you." Inside was a note from a student in California. "I saw your story on TV. I started a group like yours here. We have 30 members. No bullying incidents this semester. Thank you for showing us we don't have to accept being treated badly." Lucas slid into the seat across from her. "Another one?" Clara smiled. "One more." She added it to the growing stack she kept in her locker. She looked around. Students were outside in the courtyard practicing conflict-resolving role plays. Laughter filled the air. The school she once feared now breathed differently. 8 months ago, she just wanted to survive. Today, she'd helped change a culture. Some battles, Clara realized, don't choose you randomly. They choose you because you're strong enough to win them. And when you do, when you rise, it's not just your life that transforms. It's everyone's. The bell rang. Students gathered their things and headed back to class, walking with a confidence that would have been unthinkable not long ago. Clara smiled as she packed her own bag. Her mom was right. Bandeirante was different from Sao Paulo. Different now. Better now. And she had something to do with that. Clara Machado's journey is more than just the account of one girl standing up to bullies. It is a portrait of moral clarity in the face of systemic failure, of how quiet strength can disrupt long-standing injustice. This story reminds us that courage is rarely convenient. It does not arrive with fanfare or certainty. It comes in the form of choices. Clara didn't fight because she wanted to. She fought because too many others had learned to flinch, to hide, to fold under the weight of cruelty. And when institutions failed her, she stood anyway, not just for herself, but for the voiceless. At its heart, Clara's experience is a call to believe in the enduring power of values we often treat as optional: integrity, responsibility, compassion, and justice. These aren't abstract ideals. They are daily decisions. They are what we choose to do when nobody is watching, and even more, when everyone is. In a world increasingly shaped by image and influence, Clara's legacy is a return to something simpler but infinitely stronger: character. She didn't need wealth, connections, or a platform. Her truth was her platform. For educators, it's a call to listen more deeply, to see beyond the surface and act before damage becomes irreversible. For students, it's a challenge to redefine what strength means: not domination but defense, not silence but solidarity. And for all of us, it's a reminder that we are never too small to make change, but we are often too scared to try. Bandeirantes High may just be one school, but its transformation sparked a ripple effect across communities, states, even countries. Clara proved that real leadership doesn't come from authority, it comes from authenticity. Her story doesn't end in a courtroom or with a cheer. It lives on in every student who chooses to speak up, every teacher who chooses to step in, and every parent who chooses to believe their child when no one else will. Because sometimes the smallest act of standing up can become the loudest declaration of what kind of world we want to live in. And that is where true justice begins.